Hey YouTube friends, it's Vaughn and Roger here from We Made This Up. Today we're going to show you the very first time this version of our Story Planner workshop was ever used. If you haven't watched the story that Roger made up from this workshop, be sure to check it out first so that you can follow along in this video with how the magic happened.
Not only was this the first workshop, but it was also the one where I acted as both the creator and the facilitator. While that can split your attention, instead of having you concentrate on one role's input, it did show how the workshop can guide even a solo creator.
Get and collect ideas. The challenge we gave ourselves for this season was coming up with stories around the concepts of the beginning, the middle, and the end. So this first story would start appropriately enough with the beginning.
And while the word probably should have been that at the time, the word origin appealed to me more because it made me think about origin story. So I started brainstorming various ideas that I placed around the word. Over here, I placed my ideas about my own origins as a YouTube content creator. To the right was my instinctual idea, the graphic novel of Batman's origin story. It was a strong draw, but I also knew that kind of origin story had its challenges.
You could say with that idea you were having a dark night of the soul.
Then I tried to go wacky and let the ideas in the back of my mind come to the surface, and that's what came out. Finally, I asked myself what a typical person might think about the word origin. I probably even Googled it a few times. Hey, you gotta use every tool.
Roger also noticed the overlapping concepts between the notes he was making here. This really helps reveal the core idea that the creator wants to use for a story, and that's what the next exercise helps even further with. Sort and group ideas. This exercise is the start of the story taking shape. You usually can see how certain words and meaningful concepts bubble to the surface and show you what you're really wanting the story to be about.
The thing I love in particular about origin stories is the promise of what is to come. In other words, the classic story of a person reaching their full potential, and the potential having its limits far higher than anyone even dreamt possible.
Even though Roger had sorted the ideas in the previous exercise, he now needed to determine which one was the best of the best, and the rest would fall away, just like Survivor. Define and rank ideas.
I actually got a bit derailed here in this exercise because, well, I have a confession. I love manga, shonen manga in particular. As far as a pattern for a person reaching their potential, you'd be hard-pressed to find a formula as clear and effective as a typical shonen story. So I went off on a tangent with a story about Japan versus the USA versus the USSR in a space race to the moon. It involved mechs, of course.
I still want to read that story one day. But what this exercise helped do was keep Roger focusing on the value that he actually wanted this story to have, rather than just what's cool.
Yeah, I knew from an earlier exercise that a big motivation here was to get the story done. And this inspiration burst showed me visually that the mech story would require a much bigger story than what I was wanting to do.
Name and own the idea.
At this point in the workshop, I needed to summarize my big idea, which was fulfilling potential. And that old catchphrase, dreams can come true, became the story's value statement.
It's also the title of a song from the 1990s by Gabrielle.
Even now, it resonates with me. The theme, not the song. What better fulfillment could there be than a wild idea so crazy it could only be described as a dream, which you make a reality?
Having a sharp title helps you think of your idea easily going forward, but it is only the start. Roger would next have to break the concept apart to find out why it's important to him. Let's watch. And just a reminder, if you want to see the detail of any of this, you can pause the video as we go. Convert idea into statement.
This part actually blew my mind a little.
Kaboom.
I brought over the notes I had made in the previous exercise and I thought I had a good grasp of what my theme was. Fulfilling potential equals dreams can come true. However, in unpacking those words, it further revealed what they meant to me. I uncovered a rather existential concept that what really appealed to me, namely the highs and lows of becoming your own god. And immediately I was like, yes, this is the story that I want to come into existence.
Becoming a god, hey? Not ambitious at all. Define the role players.
Although the highs and lows of becoming your own god really excited me, I struggled here to imagine antagonists and hurdles that didn't sound like some sort of myths and legend story. But even though I knew I didn't want to write that kind of been there, done that type of story, I still went ahead with the exercise anyway.
When you reach a challenging area in the workshop like this, it highlights what storytelling challenge you're going to face if you don't consider this in as much detail as possible now during the planning stage.
In retrospect, what this exercise did help me do was realize I was going to tell a story that had mythical qualities, but that I wanted to put a new spin on it.
Define statement contrasts. Define statement theme.
By this point I was getting a bit tired, and while going slower is better than stopping, you should give yourself breathing room, and I was pushing myself through, so I didn't do that. I didn't finish these 2 exercises as thoroughly as I could have.
Interestingly, a lot of the concepts that Roger did list here would go on to become hooks in his eventual story, such as the power of faith, that success is reflected in the world, and that knowledge might be protected but can be gained experientially.
By writing things down in the workshop, you're priming your creative side with these concepts that will come to life when you begin writing the story, without you even realizing it.
Understand motivation. Probably the biggest focus of the workshop in this current version is on theme. Theme is really the heart of your story. It's how you as the creator put your personal spin on a story that others have likely already told, but they haven't told it the way you have.
This exercise, wow. It was hard, but helpful. It was exactly what I needed at this stage. What's my next step? Well, this exercise showed me what would be missing in order for my adventure to take place. Once I understood those points, I could counter them. In particular, what's missing that you need to find to even have hope? Well, the counter to that is faith in yourself, and so the wheels started turning nicely again.
Sometimes just looking at one clear perspective is super useful. Small, broken down steps will help get you there.
While I still didn't have a clear story in mind, I wanted to work through the hurdles of believing in yourself, how there is a system that you need to understand before overcoming it, and fulfilling one's potential is not for everybody.
Way to go, Roger. You've now made everyone depressed.
While it might sound like a sad concept, it's okay, because ultimately, living life on your own terms is probably the hardest thing any individual will ever have to do.
Create theme actors. Choose major POV. After you've explored the range of viewpoints for your idea, as well as your personal motivation around the theme of the story, you can use this exercise to build up a roster of potential characters.
I used up all my remaining energy on the previous exercise, so I drew the workshop to a close at this point. Creating is hard, and I've seen with later workshops how important it is to take breaks and to be open to multiple sessions.
Wrapping up.
So I didn't have a strong idea of what form the story would take at this point like I did with later workshops. What this workshop did help solidify for me was that I was itching to write an epic story that wasn't your typical legend environment, surrounding a character's very personal journey of leveling up until they reach their ultimate state.
And that's what Roger's story about Norman would go on to do. That's us for today. If this creative process is familiar to you, please tell us more in the comments.
If you're keen on building a story crafting community with us, please subscribe to our channel and share our videos with others.
Subscribe. And if you'd like to support even more, there's a link in the description where you can donate.
Thanks for spending time with us here at We Made This Up.